The twin suns of Kepler 442c cast long shadows across the mining colony as the last Council ships disappeared into the black void of space. Commander Li Juan stood on the bridge of the human frigate Resilience, watching the evacuation transports grow smaller and smaller until they were just specks of light. Then nothing. "Sir, they're all gone," reported Lieutenant Park Min-ho from his station. His voice was quiet, almost afraid to break the silence. Ji-won nodded slowly. 3 days ago, this system had been under the full protection of the Galactic Council. Warships from 12 different species had patrolled these trade routes. Diplomatic stations had buzzed with activity. Now there was only his single, aging human vessel, and the desperate calls for help from the colony below. The Villani were peaceful creatures, tall and graceful, with scales that shimmered like green glass in sunlight. They had never built weapons of war, never trained armies, never thought they would need to. Their crystal technology could power entire cities and heal the sick, but it could not stop the nightmare that was coming for them. "Incoming transmission from the surface," announced Communications Officer Choi Sumian. Her hands shook slightly as she worked her controls. The main screen flickered, showing Elder Kethfer in the colony's central chamber. Behind him, Ji-won could see other Villani moving quickly, their usually calm movements now filled with panic. Some carried small children, others clutched personal belongings. "Commander Lee," the Elder's voice cracked with desperation. "Our long sensors show the Scourge fleet approaching. 31 vessels, moving at maximum speed. They will reach our system in 17 hours. Gi-won had seen the reports from the other colonies. The Scourge left nothing alive. They consumed everything, the people, the resources, even the atmosphere of planets. 7 systems had fallen in the past month. Each time, the survivors had sent the same desperate messages asking for help. Each time, help had never come. "Elder, are your people ready for evacuation?" Ji-won asked, though he already knew the answer. "We have no ships capable of deep space travel. Our mining vessels can barely reach the outer moons. Commander, you are our only hope." The Council promised they would never abandon us, but his voice trailed off as the reality of their situation became clear. Chief Engineer Kim Hannah looked up from her station, her face grim. "Sir, our sensors are picking up the Scourge fleet. They're moving faster than expected. 16 hours, maybe less." Around the bridge, the crew exchanged glances. They all knew what those numbers meant. The Resilience was a good ship, but she was old. Her weapons were outdated, her shields had been patched too many times to count, and her crew of 140 humans was tiny compared to the thousands of warriors aboard each Scourge vessel. Sir Min-ho spoke carefully. "We could still jump to hyperspace. We could follow the Council fleet to the safe zones. No one would blame us for leaving. We're just one ship." The bridge fell silent. Through the view screen, they could see the colony below. Lights twinkled across the surface as the Villani went about their evening routines. Some probably still believed help was coming. Others were likely saying goodbye to places they had called home for generations. One thought about his orders. Officially, his mission was to protect human interests in this sector. With the Council withdrawal, there were no human interests left to protect. The smart move, the safe move, would be to retreat. He thought about his daughter, back on Earth, just starting her first year at the academy. He thought about his wife, who had made him promise to come home safe. He thought about all the reasons to turn his ship around and fly away from this hopeless fight. Then he looked at Elder Kethfer's face on the screen, at the fear and fading hope in those large, gentle eyes. "Number of civilians on the surface?" Ji-won asked quietly. 4.7 million, Sumin replied. "Mostly families. The miners finished their shifts an hour ago." Ji-won closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, his decision was made. Plot a course to defensive position between the colony and the approaching fleet. "Hannah, I want everything we have running at maximum efficiency. Sumin, open a channel to the colony. Sir, are you sure about this? Minho asked. 31 Scourge ships against 1 human frigate. The odds are, impossible, G1 finished. I know, but sometimes impossible is all you have. The screen showed Elder Kethver again, waiting desperately for an answer. Elder G1 said, his voice steady and clear. The resilience will remain in system. We're going to buy you as much time as we can. Get your people to the underground shelters. Seal them tight, and whatever happens, don't give up hope. The Elder's eyes widened. Commander, you would risk your lives for us, even though your own people have abandoned this sector. That's exactly why we're staying, G1 replied. Someone has to make a stand. As the transmission ended, the crew began their preparations. In 16 hours, they would face an enemy that had never known defeat. But they were human, and sometimes being human meant doing the impossible thing simply because it was, right? The Resilience turned toward the approaching darkness, alone but not afraid. The Scourge fleet dropped out of hyperspace like a swarm of angry wasps, their black ships blocking out the stars. Commander Li Guan watched from the bridge of the Resilience as 31 enemy vessels formed attack formations, each one 3 times the size of his frigate. They're hailing us, reported Choi Suman, her voice tight with fear. The main screen filled with the nightmare image of a Scourge commander. Its insectoid head twitched as compound eyes focused on G1. When it spoke, the voice was like grinding metal. Human vessel. You will withdraw immediately, or be destroyed. This system belongs to the swarm now. Giwan stood straighter. This is Commander Li, Giwan of the human ship Resilience. You are threatening innocent civilians. We cannot allow that. The Scourge commander's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. One small ship against the might of the swarm. You will die for nothing, human. Maybe, G1 replied calmly. But we'll make it cost you. The transmission cut off. Around the bridge, his crew worked frantically at their stations. They had spent the last 16 hours preparing for this moment, and everyone knew their jobs. Sir, they're moving into attack formation, announced Lieutenant Park Minho from Tactical. The lead ships are targeting our position. All power to forward shields, G1 ordered. Hannah, how are our engines? Running at 110%. Chief Engineer, Kim Hannah, called from engineering over the comm. She's old, but she's got fight left in her. The first Scourge ships opened. Fire. Green energy beams lanced through space, striking the Resilience's shields in brilliant flashes of light. The ship shook violently, and sparks flew from damaged consoles. Shields down to 70%, Minho reported, as he returned fire with their missile tubes. Direct hit on the lead vessel, but their armor is thick. G1 gripped his command chair as another volley rocked the ship. Pattern Delta. Make them chase us. The Resilience spun away from the main fleet, using her superior speed to stay ahead of the heavier Scourge ships. It was an old tactic. Make the enemy spread out, then hit them one at a time. But with 31 ships, even that seemed hopeless. Sir, incoming message from the colony, Sumin announced. Elder Kethver appeared on screen, speaking quickly. Commander, our crystal arrays are detecting something strange. The Scourge ships seem confused by your movement patterns. Their formation is breaking apart. Juon smiled grimly. Hannah, remember that modification you suggested last month? The one I said was too crazy. The gravity well generator. Hannah's voice crackled through the comm. Sir, that was just a theory. We've never tested it. No time like the present. Do it. Down in engineering, Hannah and her team worked frantically to reroute power from non-essential systems. They had discovered that by reversing the polarity on their artificial gravity generators, they could create small distortions in space. It might confuse the enemy sensors, or it might blow up their own ship. Ready, sir? Hannah reported. but I can't promise we won't tear ourselves apart. Do it now, Jiwan ordered as 3 Scourge ships closed in from different angles. The Resilience seemed to flicker and bend, as if reality itself was uncertain about where the ship actually was. The Scourge vessels fired at where their sensors said the human ship should be, but their weapons struck empty space. It's working, Minho shouted with excitement. They can't get a lock on us. But the celebration was short-lived. The modification was draining their power systems, and the ship couldn't maintain the effect for long. Worse, the main Scourge fleet was beginning to ignore the human ship entirely, turning toward the defenseless colony below. They're moving. 2 bombardment positions, Minho warned. If they start firing on the surface, ... Double quotes, G1 made a desperate decision. All remaining power to engines, full speed, toward their flagship. Sir, that's suicide, Su Min protested. Maybe, but if we can take out their command ship, the others might hesitate long enough for help to arrive. The Resilience dropped her deception field and raced straight toward the largest Scourge vessel. Every enemy ship in the fleet turned to intercept them, filling space with deadly energy beams. The human ship's shields failed completely, and hull breaches began venting atmosphere into space. Hull breach on decks 4 and 7, Hannah reported, her voice strained. Emergency. Bulkheads are holding, but barely. Keep us together just a little longer, Jiwan pleaded with his ship as much as his crew. They were almost at the Scourge flagship when something unexpected happened. The colony's crystal arrays suddenly flared to life, sending beams of pure energy upward into space. Elder Kethfer had somehow managed to turn their peaceful mining equipment into weapons. The crystals are overloading the Scourge sensors, Minho reported in amazement. Their whole fleet is blind. Jiwan seized the moment. Fire everything we have left. Target their command center. The Resilience unleashed her remaining missiles. At point-blank range, the Scourge flagship's shields held, but the explosions sent the massive ship spinning out of control. More importantly, the attack created enough chaos for 3 Scourge vessels to collide with each other in the confusion. Sir, we've lost main power, Hannah announced. We're dead in space. But they had done something no one thought possible. 1 small human ship and a peaceful mining colony had bloodied the nose of the unstoppable Scourge fleet. It wouldn't stop them, but it had bought precious time. As the enemy ships regrouped for their final attack, Jiwan smiled. They had made their stand, and that was enough. The message spread through the dark corners of space like wildfire. On forgotten mining stations and abandoned research outposts, beings who had given up hope suddenly lifted their heads. The impossible had happened. Someone had fought the Scourge, and lived to tell about it. Commander Li Guan floated in the medical bay of the Resilience, his left arm in a healing cast from the last desperate battle. Through the small porthole, he could see the Villani crystal arrays still glowing softly on the planet's surface. Those ancient mining tools had saved them all when Elder Kethfer figured out how to turn them into weapons. Sir, you need to see this, Lieutenant Park Minho said as he entered the medical bay. Carrying a data pad that flickered with dozens of incoming messages, G1 sat up carefully, wincing as his ribs protested. What is it? Communications from across the outer rim. Word about our fight has reached other abandoned colonies. They're all asking the same question. How do we fight back? The first message was from Captain Naya of the Hydrosian Resistance. Her people lived in the deep ocean worlds that the Galactic Council had declared too difficult to defend. Her aquatic features filled the small screen as she spoke with urgent hope. Commander Lee, we heard what you did at Kepler-4 for to see. The Scourge hit our system 2 days ago, but we managed to hide in the deep trenches. We have 12 ships and 5,000 fighters. If you're really planning to resist, we want to join you. The next message came from the Lithans, a species made of living crystal who could survive in the vacuum of space. Their homeworld had been written off as economically worthless by the council, but now their representatives spoke with fierce determination. Human Commander, your stand has inspired us. We thought we were alone, but if others will fight, then so will we. Our crystal ships cannot match Scourge firepower, but we can repair damage that would destroy metal vessels. More messages kept coming. The Aryans, gas-dwelling beings whose cloud cities floated in the atmospheres of giant planets. The tunnel dwellers who lived in asteroid fields. The ice miners from the frozen moons. Every species the council had abandoned was suddenly finding its voice. How many responses do we have? Giwan asked, amazed. 43 systems so far, Minho replied, all asking for leadership. They want to know what we do next. Chief Engineer Kim Hanna entered the medical bay, her clothes still stained with coolant from emergency repairs. Sir, I've been monitoring Scourge communications. They're regrouping, but something's changed. They're moving more carefully now, sending scout ships ahead instead of charging in blindly. We scared them, Giwan realized. They didn't expect any resistance at all. There's more, Hanna continued. The Scourge are having trouble with their supply lines. They consume everything on the planets they conquer, but they need raw materials to build more ships. The abandoned systems don't have the infrastructure they expected. Elder Kethfer's image appeared on another communication screen, his scaled features showing exhaustion, but also something new, hope. Commander Lee, our crystal networks have been monitoring space traffic. The Scourge are spreading their forces thinner to control all the systems they've taken. Perhaps this is our chance. G1 stood up slowly, his mind racing with possibilities. The Council had always fought the Scourge with massive fleets and direct confrontation. But the abandoned species couldn't do that. They were too few, too scattered, too poorly equipped. Minho, set up a secure communication network. I want to talk to all the resistance leaders at once. Within hours, representatives from dozens of species filled the Resilience's main display. Aquatic hydrogens, crystalline lithens, gaseous and many others that G1 had never seen before. All of them had been deemed worthless by the Galactic Council. All of them were ready to fight. Friends, G1 began, we cannot fight the Scourge the way the Council does. We don't have enough ships or weapons. But we have something they don't expect. We know how to survive in places nobody else wants to live. Captain Naya's voice bubbled through her water-filled helmet. What do you suggest, Commander? We become a network. The Scourged move in straight lines, conquering system after system. But we can attack from everywhere at once. The deep ocean, the asteroid fields, the gas clouds, the frozen moons. They can't guard everything. A Lithian representative's crystalline form chimed like bells as it spoke. Our crystal ships can hide among asteroid fields. We could hit their supply convoys, and my people can strike from the gas giants, added Anarian, its cloud-like body, shifting colors with excitement. Their sensors cannot penetrate our storms. The network began to take shape. Each species would use their unique abilities and harsh environments as advantages. The Hydrogens would attack from underwater bases. The Lithens would ambush convoys in asteroid fields. The Aryans would disappear into gas giant storms after each strike. But we need coordination, warned Captain Naya, and we need to know where the Scourge will strike next. Communications Officer Choi Soo-min looked up from her console. Sir, I'm detecting something on the long-range sensors. Multiple hyperspace signatures, heading for the Altair system. G1 smiled grimly. The Scourge thought they were still facing scattered, helpless victims. They were about to learn that sometimes the species everyone else abandons are the ones who will know how to fight the hardest. All units, he broadcast to the growing network of resistance fighters. Prepare for Operation Hornet's Nest. Let's teach them what happens when they underestimate the forgotten. 6 months after the first impossible stand, the abandoned systems had become a maze of death for the Scourge. Commander Li Juan stood in the command center they had built inside a hollowed-out asteroid, watching tactical displays that showed victories he never thought possible. Another supply convoy destroyed near the Vega system, reported Lieutenant Park Minho, his voice filled with satisfaction. Captain Naya's underwater fighters hit them just as they entered the ocean world's gravity well. No survivors. The asteroid base hummed with activity as beings from dozens of species worked side by side. Hydrogen engineers helped repair lithium crystal ships, while Aran scouts shared intelligence with human tacticians. What had started as desperate resistance had grown into something the galaxy had never seen before. Chief Engineer Kim Hanna looked up from a workbench where she was combining human technology with alien crystal matrices. Sir, the new hybrid weapons are ready for testing. The Villani crystals can store energy from our fusion reactors and release it in focused beams that cut through Scourge armor like paper. How many ships can we equip? Jiwan asked, studying the glowing crystal array. 15 so far, with more coming online each week. The Lithans are growing new crystals, specifically for our weapons. They say they've never seen their kind work so closely with other species before. Through the command center's reinforced windows, Jiwan could see the fleet they had assembled. It wasn't pretty patched-together ships from 100 different worlds, held together with determination and spare parts. But it was growing stronger every day. Elder Kethver's image appeared on the main communication screen, speaking from the Villani homeworld that had become the network's main supply base. Commander, our crystal farms are producing at maximum capacity. But I have troubling news. Our deep space monitors have detected massive Scourge fleet movements near the galactic core. How massive? Jiwan asked, though he suspected he didn't want to know the answer. Over 3,000 ships, all heading toward Council space. It appears our resistance has forced them to change their strategy. Instead of slow conquest, they're preparing for total war. The command center fell silent. Everyone understood what this meant. Their small victories had been like bee stings to a giant. Now the giant was getting ready to crush everything in its path. Communications Officer Choi Suman broke the silence. Sir, incoming priority message from the Galactic Council. They're requesting immediate communication with Resistance leadership. The holographic display flickered, showing Admiral Chenwei of the Council Defense Force. The man looked tired and desperate, nothing like the confident leader who had abandoned the Outer Rim months earlier. Commander Lee, the Admiral began, we've been monitoring your ... activities. We need to talk. You mean the activities you said were impossible? Jiwan replied coldly. The Outer Rim systems you called worthless. I know how this looks, Admiral, Chen continued, but the situation has changed. Our intelligence indicates the Scourge are massing for a final assault on the galactic core. Every major council world is at risk. Captain Naya's voice bubbled through the speakers as she joined the communication from her underwater command ship. And now you want our help, after you abandoned us to die. The past doesn't matter now, the Admiral said desperately. If the core worlds fall, the entire galaxy falls with them. We need every ship we can get. Jiwan looked around at his mixed crew of humans and aliens, all watching him carefully. These beings had learned to trust each other through months of desperate fighting. They had created something new. A true alliance based on mutual respect rather than council politics. Admiral Guan said slowly, what exactly are you offering? Full reinstatement in the Galactic Defense Force, recognition of your resistance, network, supply lines, reinforcements, whatever you need. And after the war, do we go back to being abandoned colonies that don't matter? The Admiral hesitated. That would be a political decision above my level. Alithian representatives, crystalline voice chimed through the speakers. Commander Lee, we have learned to trust humans because you stood with us when no one else would. But can we trust those who abandoned us once before? Juan studied the tactical displays showing the massive Scourge fleet approaching Council space. Millions of innocent beings lived in those core systems. Whatever their leaders had done, the people didn't deserve to die. Hannah, he called to his chief engineer, how long to get our fleet to Council space? With our fastest ships, maybe 2 weeks, if we push hard. Sir Minho interrupted, we're getting reports from our scout network. The Scourge aren't just targeting the core worlds. They're planning to hit the Council Assembly itself. If they destroy the government center, the galaxy loses all coordination, Jiwan finished. He made his decision. Admiral Chen will help, but not as junior partners, taking orders. We fight as equals, or we don't fight at all. Agreed, the Admiral said quickly. What do you need? Just stay out of our way. We've learned how to fight these creatures. Your people haven't. As the communication ended, Jiwan turned to address the mixed crew in the command center. I know some of you don't want to help those who abandoned us, but this isn't about them. It's about proving that every species has value, even the ones others throw away. The network began mobilizing for their greatest challenge yet. They had 6 months to prepare for a battle that would decide the fate of the entire galaxy. The Council's mighty fleet filled the space around Earth like a metal forest, their gleaming ships arranged in perfect formation. But, as Commander Li Guan watched from the Bridge of the Resilience, those same ships were being torn apart by the Scourge assault. The galaxy's finest warships, with their advanced weapons and trained crews, were dying by the hundreds. Council flagship is going down, reported Lieutenant Park Minho, his voice grim as another explosion lit up the darkness. That's the third command ship we've lost in the past hour. The Scourge had come in numbers beyond imagination. Over 5,000 black ships swarmed through Council space like hungry insects, their weapons cutting through defensive lines as if they were made of paper. The careful battle plans and organized formations that had protected the galaxy for centuries meant nothing against this endless tide of destruction. Sir, Admiral Chen is requesting immediate assistance, announced Communications Officer Choi. Suman, the Council forces are in full retreat. Earth's planetary shields are failing. Through the chaos of battle, Earth hung like a blue jewel surrounded by fire. Its orbital stations were already burning wreckage, and the planet's surface sparkled with the impact flashes of Scourge bombardment weapons. In a few more hours, humanity's homeworld would share the fate of so many other worlds. Where are our people? Juan asked quietly. Chief Engineer Kim Hannah looked up from her station, where streams of data showed the positions of their scattered network. Captain Naya's underwater fighters are moving into position beneath the Scourge fleet. The Lit are hiding in Earth's asteroid belt. The Arans have taken position in Jupiter's storms. Everyone's ready, sir, Juan nodded. For 8 months, the abandoned species had learned to fight together, using their unique abilities and harsh environments as weapons. Now it was time to show the galaxy what they had become. Signal all network units, he ordered. Operation Last Stand is a go. Hit them everywhere at once. The first surprise came from below. Captain Naya's Hydrosian fighters erupted from Earth's oceans like silver bullets, their water-adapted ships moving in ways that confused Scourge targeting systems. They struck at the enemy's lower formations, then disappeared back into the deep ocean before return fire could find them. The second wave emerged from the asteroid belt. Lithium crystal ships that looked exactly like floating rocks suddenly came alive, their living hulls reshaping themselves into sleek combat forms. They moved through the Scourge formation like ghosts, their crystal weapons cutting through enemy armor with surgical precision. The Scourge are trying to regroup, Minho reported excitedly, but they can't track targets that keep changing shape and hiding in impossible places. The third assault came from Jupiter itself. Aran cloud ships dropped out of the gas giant's storms, their forms barely solid enough to hold together. They struck at the Scourge rearguard, then dissolved back into mist before the enemy could respond. Each attack left burning wreckage in its wake. But the real shock came from the hybrid weapons that Hannah and the other engineers had created. Human fusion reactors powered Villani crystal arrays, creating energy beams that the Scourge had never encountered. Ships that had shrugged off Council plasma cannons were cut in half by these new weapons. "Sir, the Scourge command ship is trying to escape," Suman announced. "It's heading for the hyperspace jump point." Ji-won smiled grimly. "Not this time," Minho signaled the tunnel dwellers. From the outer solar system, beings who lived in hollowed-out asteroids launched their secret weapon. Dozens of small ships, each one carrying a modified mining charge, raced toward the hyperspace point. They arrived just as the Scourge command ship tried to jump, and the explosions tore open space itself. The Scourge fleet, suddenly cut off from retreat and facing enemies that attacked from impossible angles, began to fall apart. Their rigid formation tactics were useless against foes that could hide underwater, disguise themselves as rocks, or dissolve into gas clouds. "Council forces are rallying," Minho reported. "They're pushing forward again." Admiral Chen's face appeared on screen, his expression a mixture of amazement and gratitude. "Commander Lee, how did you know their weaknesses?" "We didn't," Ji-won replied, "but we knew our own strengths. Sometimes that's enough." As the last Scourge ships either fled or were destroyed, the true scope of the victory became clear. The unstoppable swarm that had consumed dozens of systems had been broken by a collection of species that the galaxy had written off as worthless. "Sir, incoming message from the Council Assembly," Sumin announced. The screen filled with the image of Chancellor Morrison, the galaxy's highest leader. Behind her, Ji-won could see representatives from hundreds of worlds, all watching intently. "Commander Lee," the Chancellor began, "on behalf of the Galactic Council, I formally apologize for our abandonment of the Outer Rim. Your network has saved us all. We would like to offer you and your allies full membership in the Council, with equal representation for all species." Ji-won looked around his bridge, at the mixed crew that had become his family. Humans working alongside Villani Hydrosians, collaborating with Lithan's Aryans, sharing data with dozens of other species. They had created something new together. "Chancellor," he replied, "we accept, but not just membership. We want to establish the Outer Rim Protection Fleet, with bases in every abandoned system. No species will ever be left to fall again." As Earth's blue skies cleared of smoke and fire, the galaxy began to learn a new truth. Sometimes the greatest shields come from those who know what it means to stand alone.